I love my Grenada, my homeland forever. Sing the chorus louder, tell them about Grenada, the land of my grandfather. She will always prosper. Oh, my Grenada, land of peace and culture.
Pure Grenada, the small but beautiful and unspoiled tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique is located in the Caribbean with a population of just about 100,000 people. Led by Eric Matthew Gary, Grenada got its independence in 1974 from Great Britain and had 7 prime ministers since independence. Keith Mitchell is the country's sitting prime minister and is also the longest-serving prime minister in Grenada's history. He is described as one of the most visionary, respected, and accomplished leaders in the world. The large majority of Grenadians are happy with his leadership, and in 3 national elections, the people have voted and gave his party an unprecedented clean sweep at the polls. Prime Minister Mitchell has guided Grenada through difficult periods such as the rebuilding process after the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and the rebuilding of the economy after 5 years of the NDC administration that ran 2008 to 2013. During that period, the NDC government became bankrupt and was unable to manage the economy. They had to resort to selling multiple government properties to the NIS to pay salaries of public workers. At no time during that period was any public officer able to get an increase in salary or increments owed to them. The NDC government was plagued with infighting and scandal. After just 2 years in office, the NNP government paid public officers increases and increments owed to them for the period 2009 to 2012 to the tune of $58 million. An additional 10% increase in salaries was paid for the period 2017 to 2019. A total of over $110 million was paid during these periods. Officers have been relieved from financial uncertainty as they have been receiving salaries on time every month thereafter. With support from social partners, government was also able to successfully implement a 3-year homegrown structural adjustment program. As a result of this remarkable leadership and ability to manage the economy, the World Bank in 2018 recognized Prime Minister Mitchell as the most outstanding finance minister in the region. The country continues to move on an impressive upward trajectory and is promoted as a model destination and economy not merely in a regional but international basis, as investors have been finding Grenada to be a safe, peaceful, and excellent climate to do business. But how is the NNP government seen locally? The party has been branded by the majority as a party for all that has transformed the economic landscape of the country while providing for the social needs of ordinary people, especially the poor and vulnerable. This social approach of the government has been attacked and labeled by the NDC for the needy and greedy. Although this labeling has angered many Grenadians across party lines and has attempted to sow seeds of discord among various socio-economic groupings, the NNP has remained steadfast in its philosophy and continues to support the poor and vulnerable. Over the last 7 years, over $70 million was spent on house repair. Additionally, 353 housing units were distributed to families throughout Grenada, and 647 more are currently under construction. Hundreds of scholarships are granted every year as a strategy to lift families out of poverty and to empower them. That is why the government spends more than $50 million every year to support Grenadian students studying at universities in Grenada and abroad. As a means of providing further support to families, government paid out over $17 million through the SEED program to assist parents to support their children's education and to meet the basic needs of senior citizens. The government plans to further expand its social programs in 2020 so more people can benefit. To be able to sustain these social programs while at the same time investing in major capital projects such as road enhancement and community development initiatives, government has adopted a multifaceted approach to
www.HARDTALKGrenada.com.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
The strength of the iron, it's in the testing. Bring them up, it's not a loss, it's just a lesson. Be grateful for your blessings. You've been digging deep to find that inner strength. No, it's not the time to give up. No, nah, 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 nah. I'm telling you nothing they do will never defeat me. We control your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. I feel so irate. Wake up and I'm ready. Must make it ever steady. Setting goals is necessary while they hiding. Precious time they wasting like a disease is that spreading. Know which if they eyesight I say I don't know why. Some will worry about the next man's stride. Try to match up a next man's life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start walking on, you want to make something must be wrong, yeah man. I don't come here for that, so you help me burn and that's the I'm telling you. I'm telling you nothing they do will never defeat me. We control your destiny. I'm telling you.
Good morning to all of our listening audience. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. It is a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning in the Spice Isle of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And of course, we have a special program for you here this morning. A special good morning to all of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio that's broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course, 94.9, the Big Bad We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. And of course, a very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video. Remember to share the live, like the live, get everybody involved. Let us all be a part of the conversation. Now, I'm not going to spend very long this morning on greetings because we have some very special guests in studio with us this morning. And I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, starting with the gentleman sitting right next to me.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Kester Ned. I'm a physician. I'm actually was born in Pearl, St. Andrews, so I'm a son of the soil. I'm the CEO of a company named JIPA Network, who has recently contracted with the government to further develop and bring to fruition the National Health Insurance Initiative. We have a team of with us, our team from, actually it's a mixed, we have a team from many countries that actually work in this, but we are located in the United States. So I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good morning. Thank you for having us today. My name is Mariana Canas, and I am Executive Administrator for JIPA. And my role is to support this great initiative of Grenada. So I'm very excited to be here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Huggins. I'm the VP of Finance for JIPA Network, and I'm also very involved in the Grenada NHI project. Happy to be here.
All right, wonderful. Well, it is always a pleasure having you guys here to help spread the message and to give people more information on what the National Health Insurance is all about. I know for Grenadians, everything that's new comes with a little bit of skepticism, you know. So the more information that we can get out there about the National Health Insurance would be beneficial, of course, to its success and to getting Grenadians on board with what it's all about. So I know that all of you come from a company called JIPA. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what JIPA is all about?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So JIPA Network it stands for Joint Independent Provider Association. It's a consortium of companies that provide a range of services, from provider services, insurance services, and also provider network services. We also focus on care coordination for international care, specifically in the Caribbean and Latin America. We've been at it for about 8 years, and we were brought on to aid the government in implementing this NHI initiative.
All right, wonderful. And can you tell us briefly what is JIPA's role or function in really getting or in the implementation of NHI?
Well, currently our role is to create and suggest a model to give to the Grenadian to the minister. We work under the Minister of Health's direction in coordination and with the NIS. So our role is to help develop the model to be utilized, and the second stage would be then later on is the implementation, and that's not part of our scope right now. Right now, it's all about developing the basket and the funding and the models that would be able to benefit the citizens of Grenada.
Okay, wonderful. So with that being said, your company would have assisted other companies in the in the region in the process of getting NHI implemented. How successful has that been?
Well, maybe I'll comment on this because I've been at this the longest. Well, starting in the United States, over the last maybe 30 years, I've been involved in an area called health policy and health administration. And that is, other than practicing medicine as a physician, I've worked at an academic center, which is the University of Miami, and also at a major public hospital system called Jackson Memorial Hospital. And I've also worked in the private sector. So I've had the experience of working in both private and public sector. Now, I've been involved at multiple levels in developing companies on the technology side, on the administration side, and in the operations side, organizing hospitals and physicians together to achieve the common goal of making healthcare affordable and accessible. Over the last 8 years, we saw the need in the Caribbean for the development of such services because we realized that the Caribbean was light years behind developed nation in bringing this modern ways of caring for patients or people that's cost-effective, affordable, responsible, high quality, and yet cost-effective. And with the growth of, just from television, you see all of these advances that are occurring in medicine, and not being available to developed nations has not just economic realities, but also contributes significantly to human suffering. So what we realize in the Caribbean, we have a colonial system a system of healthcare that we inherited from the colonial system that has not changed to the point that it matches or meets up with the modern healthcare system. We don't have the laws, we don't have the structure. In the Caribbean, there is only 2 facilities that are accredited by international organizations, hospitals, to provide healthcare services. Right. In developed nations, you can't practice unless you have an accreditation. Now, our experience started very early in the Turks and Caicos. We served them in terms of their international health, and in the early stages, we actually bid on their project and got involved after the system was up and running. The second country we got heavily involved in was the British Virgin Islands, where we helped shape the development of that program and subsequently was involved in the international side of it. The Bahamas, we were primarily in an advisory role, and we help, and we still involved today in a peripheral way with them. So we were part of the understanding all the legislation. We reviewed a lot of the processes and models that they set. So these are the only 3 countries in the Caribbean today that have national health insurance in some form. Okay. So we've had some experience with all of those. So this is a new to the Caribbean as a whole. The Turks and Caicos being the oldest one in the region.
Okay. So with all the work that JIPA is going to be doing, it means that you guys would have to look at the healthcare system in Grenada, analyze it, see where the shortcomings are, and look at ways in which, or recommend ways in which it can be improved or strengthened, right? How beneficial or how would this implementation of the national health insurance really benefit Grenadians on a whole?
Well, there's 2 questions inherently in what you said. One is, what's the relationship with national health insurance and and health systems, strengthening health systems. And then the next question would be the benefits to Grenadians. Am I correct on that?
Right.
Okay, good. So let's talk about the benefits to Grenadians first. Where we are today, and as the health system has evolved in Grenada, we have not kept up with all of the modern healthcare services that are available in the world. And people are looking globally for healthcare now. Healthcare has become a commodity where you go wherever you could get it. And so when people leave the country and go to other countries for healthcare, it actually drains your economy because the cost is so high in these countries that literally you go bankrupt, not as a country alone, but as a people. But if you have cancer, for example, there's a kind of cancer called multiple myeloma. It's very common in the Caribbean. We don't hear about it, but it's here. It costs about $1.2 million US dollars, and it's a curable cancer, to care for a person with multiple myeloma. For someone with stage 3 breast cancer, it's about $300,000 US dollars to go from diagnosis to complete treatment. So how many people in Grenada could afford to pay for that? So we must, and there are many challenges. We talk about national health insurance and universal health care and all of those terms. The real issue about access to health care comes from our ability to finance it.
Yeah.
So if we come up with a system in Grenada that's able to address the needs of the population, what we're presenting to the government and the people of Grenada at this point is a concept of population health, not just taking care of an individual,
Right.
but taking care of a population. If you just focus on an individual, the cost becomes prohibitive. But if we spread the cost across the whole nation, it becomes affordable.
Right.
So that's why we are presenting a model to the people of Grenada of consolidation. So the doctors come together, the hospitals come together, the nurses, everybody has to work in coordination. The financiers, like the insurance companies, the employers, all have to be part of this. What we've done is identify all the potential stakeholders and make them part of it. Now comes the other question. How do we deal with the issue of health systems, strengthening the current healthcare systems in the context of national health insurance? They two go hand in hand. One of the reasons that it's very difficult to develop and grow healthcare in this nation is because we don't have modern ways of financing healthcare. If you can't finance healthcare in a way that is affordable and that is sustainable, the system is going to break.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to have enough money to support the technicians to keep the CAT scan running.
Yeah.
You're not able to support the nurses. You're not going to be competitive because doctors and hospitals and nursing personnel are in high demand worldwide. Some of the best nurses come from the Caribbean. They're recruited by all the developed nations. They go and pay them way more than you can afford to pay them here in Grenada. So we have to improve wages and standard of living for people to keep them here. That includes doctors. Grenada doesn't have enough doctors to care for all the people. So we have to be able to build a system that would attract physicians so that they would have equitable wages so that they will remain here. Because it's a supply and demand. If you go to a place where you have better wages, better lifestyle, what's going to happen? You're going to leave. And part of the challenge with the healthcare delivery system is the kind of brain drain that you see on a regular basis. So if you don't have a national health insurance, you're not going to be able to maintain your professionals,
Yeah.
and you're not going to be able to maintain the quality in terms of your service and your equipment.
Okay. Because I think in Grenada, one of our biggest difficulties in terms of healthcare is the cost, or I should say the lack thereof. Healthcare in Grenada is virtually free. You know, you go into the hospital, you use the services, and you basically have to pay, if anything, next to nothing for the healthcare. You see a doctor, that's free. You get care as an inpatient, that's also free. Surgeries as an inpatient, that's also free. So healthcare in Grenada is generally free, and I think, in my view, in my opinion, the first thing that we need to do as a people is to understand that in order to get to the level of healthcare that we require, it must come at a cost, and we have to now look at a way in which it is going to be sustainable, a way where everyone can contribute and everyone can benefit. So I'm assuming that is what JIPA, in its deliberation and its presentation, in putting together its basket of services, is going to be able to provide to us models in which it can be affordable and sustainable for everybody.
I'd like to address the issue of free. Well, again, I mean, if you are a doctor, a nurse, you're an orderly, you're an ambulance driver, if you work in the transportation side of healthcare, you're a pharmacist, you're a lab, you expect to get paid. Okay, because you can't, if just like the engineer or the person who, works in any type of job, everybody expects to get paid. So, in a sense, somebody has to pay.
Right.
The government spends somewhere between $65 and $80 million of taxpayers' money to pay for healthcare.
Right.
So truly, it's not free because you're already paying for it in some of your taxes.
Correct.
And some of those services. So in a way, yes, it's distributed over the population, but it's been paid for by the citizens.
Right.
So just to clarify that, the perception of free is that you are not at the point of service writing a check or paying a bill.
Right.
Okay? And that is what, when somebody say we are going to offer this free to everyone, it needs to be clarified that it's been paid for.
Yeah.
Second, so the fear on the part of many in the public is that now that national health insurance is coming to bear, I'm going to have to dip my hand in my pocket and I'll pay for services. And so that's one of the fear that the public has. That's one of the fear that the employers have. Because now we have to, potentially employers may have to come up with money. Or the employees may have this fear. What I say is this. Let's look at the example of some of the material things we have in life, like a car. Anybody that has a car driving on Grenadian roads, it's mandatory that you have an insurance policy on that car. Why is that? If you have an accident, you get hurt, or you hit somebody else, their property gets damaged, they get hurt, there's insurance to cover you. If you have a home, you insure that home against hurricane damage. You insure that home against theft, the materials that are within the home. And guess what we also do? We insure our life in case we die. Okay, in Grenada, we even have an insurance for paying for funeral expenses. So I want to ask the question to all of the people listening to us here today. How about your health? What is more important? Your car, your home, your funeral expenses? What's more important? Your health is your most important asset. If you don't have your health, you can't work, you can't support your family, you can't continue with your education. So I think part of what we have to think about when we think about paying for healthcare and looking at cost, we have to look at the reality of how we value our own lives and our own health, because that's our greatest asset. So I think the discussion about national health insurance must start with this personal responsibility that we must take for ourselves as citizens in the country.
Absolutely. And guys, we're going to open the lines very early because I believe Dr. Ned and his team would like to hear from the general public. We do want to hear from you. We are going to take your questions. Remember, the numbers to call, 440-7377 for local calls. If you have a question that you want to send to us via WhatsApp, you can do so at the same 440-7377. Also, send us your queries on the live video. And if you're in the diaspora and you have a question, you can give us a call at 347-329-3101. one. Now, I did, in listening to your last interview that you just had, you would have mentioned that healthcare needs to be a collective effort. We all need to get on board in order for this thing to work, right? In a society like Grenada that is so politically charged, our environment is very politically charged, would you say that you're getting all of the support that you need, or it's still a work in progress?
Well, given the context of where we are today and how fast this has come on board, I have to say we're there. We feel the energy between the public, the government, the people, and I think a lot of it is because we're bringing in some things that are so new. There is a degree of skepticism on everyone's part. So we have to also understand that we have to have patience. And even my team, I have to explain this from time to time. Okay, guys, we're accustomed when you go into a system, you set this thing in motion and you go 1 to 3 and it's done. Now, implementing national health insurance by itself, the actual product, could take 90 days. Because there are systems already there and defined that we have in place that we could implement. What's going to take the time is the building of consensus among the stakeholders. It's the registration of people. Is your capital, pulling the capital that's necessary to pay for this on an ongoing basis. So all that work has to be done before. Once those, and the law, passing the legislation, that's going to, the legislation and setting the governance structure that will make sure that this thing is sustainable and that the public feels that it's safe. Because patient safety, this is part of the confidence that we want to give to people that whatever we're designing. Look, this is, when you look at products that we release on the market, people check for safety. They check for all those measures of quality to make sure that people don't get hurt. Healthcare is our life. So if we don't put those measures in place, and some of that, even though it comes out of our scope of work, we have a responsibility to ensure that the country and the responsible people act in a way that's responsible to make sure that the system works.
Okay. I believe that one of the biggest questions that we have is that in order for us to get a true sense of what the healthcare system is like, and in order to get a basket of services that truly represents what health care in Grenada should be, there needs to be a lot of consultation with doctors and practitioners in the various fields. Is that part of your plan? Is that part of something that you are going to be doing, and what do you hope to find?
That's my job. So we just held a presentation with the Medical Association on Saturday. And with that, I explained that my big role within this is to work with the providers and start kind of a grassroots approach. So my job and the team's job is we're all going to be working together and visiting all of the doctors. We would like to visit their offices. I would like to see what is their model that they're currently using. What is the process? Is it a single physician practicing by himself, or do you have multiple physicians in a practice? Do you have medical assistants helping you? Do you have nurses? So understanding the current model that each office has, their differences and their similarities, as well as trying to gather any type of data to be able to start creating some type of a model that will be able to predict. It's called predictive modeling, where you can take some of the diagnoses and the illnesses and be able to predict a year, 2 years down the line, will it get more complicated? Will it get more expensive? How do we control certain diseases or assist with that? So I will be doing that for the next 2 months. So I will be in Grenada quite a bit.
Wow.
And I'm excited because the country already is been very warm and welcoming. It's beautiful, and you will be seeing me a lot.
Wonderful. So, in your role, your administrative role, in looking at the different offices, the models, and so on that they use, would that also extend to the management of our general hospital services as well?
That, I think, is going
Let
to
me
be a
address that?
separate.
Yes.
Yes.
So our role in the first instance is primarily to develop the national health insurance. However, you can't do that without doing health system strengthening.
Right.
So we are consulting with all of the players in the entire healthcare delivery system to make sure that that model fits like a hand in glove. Because if you develop them away from each other, it's not going to work. There are some systems that the health system must have in place in order for national health insurance to work. So we are working with those institutions to make sure that they know about those.
Okay. All right. Remember, guys, the lines are open. People are a bit quiet today. We tend to get a little bit reclusive as Grenadians when it comes to, speaking directly to the experts about certain things. But the lines are open, guys. Call if you have a question. Remember, all questions are valid. And it may just spark an idea. You never know. So this question is for the gentleman in the corner. It's quite quiet. I know that your area of expertise would be finance. And of course, when looking at the basket of services, we're looking at different models in which the healthcare, the national health insurance can be financed and will be sustainable. Can you maybe give us some examples, since it's been implemented in other countries as well, sustainable models that have already been implemented?
Sure. So I have a little bit of a background in health economics, and the way we're trained to look at things is kind of bang for your buck. And if you look at models where they implement things like national health insurance or just really any kind of health, population health style model, what they do is they go for the conditions or the solutions that bring the most return quickly. So one of the trends that you see across the globe actually is shifting from an inpatient model where we focus on sick people to a wellness model where we focus on keeping people healthy.
Right.
Healthy people don't cost as much.
Right.
Right. So if you stop the disease today, your funding model will be able to afford to shift resources elsewhere. So our model, what we're focusing on is how do we address the most acute issues the quickest in a way that's sustainable.
Okay, great. And we have our first caller for
Great.
the morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
And not too bad, and Happy New Year to you too.
Same to you.
And good morning to your guests.
Good morning.
I am definitely not reclusive at all.
Good.
I'll tell you something. I listened to the program, maybe not from the beginning, but what the gentleman is saying, about the NHI, he is so right, because I think I and you had a conversation on that already. And I'm hearing him walking through the same thing. I just finished speaking to the people in the NIS, and I discovered the NHI Secretariat is sort of closed for a while. I hope maybe it's on my recommendation. Because what the gentleman is saying, I guess as much as a doctor or he's a super expert, what he's saying there qualify my statement and my fears as it relates to costs and the ability of the administrations or the government to actually foot this bill on their own, and maybe even with assistance from others. It's a very, very tough call. And that's the reason why my recommendation were, forget the system, put people to work, give them good salary, let them eat the right food, and take care of themselves. Attempting to manage people when they get old, where you doesn't have the ability and you have to depend on other people to assist you, I think that is going to lead to a disaster. So I thought I had to say this, hearing this gentleman speak, because I know he's a super expert on the matter, and I listen to him very, very carefully. And I think we have some trouble there. Have a great morning.
All right, you too. Okay. In terms of the NIS and the NHI, I'm assuming that they would have to work closely together in terms of getting the data put together, because they already have a model that basically you can use in terms of knowing the people, getting the people registered, and so on. How closely would the relationship with NIS and NHI be?
Well, basically, the NIS was supported by a grant which came to an end for that tenure in terms of the Secretariat and what they were doing. The grant is pretty much up, I think, December 31st. Mm-hmm. So after this grant is completed, then of course the transition is bringing us on board. Mm-hmm. So pretty much what we're doing is taking all the work that the NIS has done, and they've done quite a bit, in keeping the public aware of where things are, doing the surveys. They actually did a lot of work on the research side, working with Mama Chappelle, which is with an actuarial firm, and the University of the West Indies, who is a consulting organization on national health insurance. And actually, we work with them in the BVI ourselves, so we're quite familiar with the work they've done. They oversaw all of this. So now we are taking the work that they've done and building upon it. So of course, it's important that we continue to work with them, and what will happen is some of the people that were employed in that capacity will come over to our side.
Yes.
And so that knowledge is not lost. So we can just transition, and basically is moving on to the next step, moving forward.
Okay, we have a call on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello?
Oh.
No, we seem to have lost that one. We do have another one. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Ms. Duncan, I want to focus on healthcare this morning. And the Minister of Health was on the program speaking about the dialysis treatment. Dialysis treatment for 1 day was about $700. And they slash it to half. So if we check it, if we have to do 4 dialysis treatment for a week, at $700, that will cost you $2,800. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, that will cost you $2,800. And to slash it from half, so the 4 from 2,000 to 800, and slash it to half, that will be $1,400 for 4 dialysis treatment for a week. This is a great service, great news for the greater people. Because, see, this government continues to demonstrate care and love for people. So that if it's 4 hours treatment at $700, that will be $2,800. And now, slashing at half, it's going to be $1,400. That government continues to demonstrate the care and the love for people. Because I want to say to people, care and love for people, not speaking about it, but demonstrating it. I want to say kudos to the government for doing that. Because more dialysis treatment, the people will able to get, if they have more money in hand. And slash it from half to $350. It is important, and I appreciate the government for doing it. So, Ms. Duncan, you have a wonderful God bless.
All right, you too. Thank you so much for your call. I want to go back to something that Brian would have said as it relates to ensuring that we basically preventative measures so that we don't get to a point where we have to consistently be utilizing the service. Within the basket of services that you guys are going to be providing, or the recommendations that you are going to be making, would part of that be 2 preventative measures that can be utilized throughout the healthcare system?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, because I believe that that's very, very important, and it's something that we take for granted a lot, ensuring that we remain healthy, that we use methods to remain healthy, so that we don't have to continue to utilize the service just because it's available to us, you know. Another thing that I wanna touch on as soon as after we take this call. Let me just take this call. Good morning, caller. Hello. Good morning, caller. Hi, morning. Hello.
You're very low, because I can't hear you.
Okay, but we're hearing you.
I'm calling all the way from New York.
Yay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Hello?
No, you're very low.
Hi, can you hear us? Oh, okay. Caller, you need to listen to us on the telephone and not on the radio because there is a delay.
Hello?
All right, caller, you need to listen to us on the telephone and not on the radio. So try calling back and we'll be happy to take your call. There is one area of healthcare that I think everybody is going to be concerned with, and that is how will the National Health Insurance affect the private practitioners when it's implemented?
Well, that's a tough question to always answer, but we have presented various scenarios and models that we think would actually be quite welcoming to the not just the practitioners, but the government and the people of Grenada. And the key for this is not the separation of the private healthcare system from the public system, but bringing them together in a way that you have private-public partnerships. Now, in all the world of healthcare, even in developed nations, there's always divide between public healthcare system and private healthcare system. And it sometimes get divided on the lines of the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
And that's always a challenge. And one of the challenges is that, the whole idea of how do you bring people together that have different needs and different resources. And that's true for everything you do. There's a vernacular, there's a term that people talk about in healthcare, is like flying an airplane from one place to the other. Everybody's on the plane, and they get there at the same time. Some people get a free meal, others don't. They may have to pay for it, or some people may get different things. So one of the challenges in healthcare is how do you strike that balance for people that could afford to pay more and people that can't afford to pay more? How do you make it equitable so that both sides don't feel left out? The one thing you don't want to do is to create a system where the people who could afford to pay leaves and go elsewhere for healthcare, because now you're draining the system.
Yeah.
And then the people that can't afford to pay don't have the benefit of the resources of those people that spend. At the same time, you have the person that can't afford to pay feeling that I'm not getting the same thing that the guy across there that could pay is getting. And it's not unfair. It's unfair because healthcare is a right.
Yeah.
And that's always the challenge that you come across into the system. And of course, that gets politicized in a way that it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
So one of the things we want to be able to do is to tender those discussions because, as you know, there are many stakeholders in this. And these are hard issues. And I know we're talking hard talk here.
Yeah.
These are hard issues for people to address at all levels. We're not afraid of it because I think we have to bring it front and center and deal with it because it has tremendous economic consequences for the country if we don't handle this issue properly. And we want to be fair to all sides of the equations. So what our model is public-private partnerships. And we use the word partnership with an emphasis. If we bring this in as a model to drive healthcare in Grenada, it will succeed.
Okay.
If we segregate it and we create a public system and a private system by themselves, it will fail. In fact, both will fail. So we feel that it's imperative, and I'm going to use that word, that we develop a system where we consolidate everybody's resources together, and we will design it and develop it where people that want to spend more for themselves and people that want to go abroad and people that want certain things, we can't take that right from them. But our responsibility is to make sure that the public get a level of service that's better than what they have today and that meets the standards of what's acceptable in the world. And that's an important issue to address.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that, because this has been done before, that you are expecting in your consultation?
I think some of the largest challenge, and I think you addressed this. You want to talk about your challenges when what you talked about change in the last program? Yes.
It's change. That's going to be the largest challenge, and it comes in all different facets, and it comes in all different forms. When it's just change in general is difficult, and everybody processes change differently. So we have to be able to meet people where they are in their process of thinking and in their processes of change. You're going to have a way of changing how providers are going to be working and a way that patients are going to be working. So, for example, in one of the models, one of the changes would be the patient's going to see the doctor more. It doesn't necessarily mean it's because the doctor wants to collect money from them. It's probably because they probably have something that needs more follow-up. So it's one of those that you don't just go to the doctor when you're sick. The doctors need to see you when you're feeling well as well, so that you can maintain that. So that's what Brian was talking about, is keeping you healthy.
Okay. We have another caller.
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning,
Hello,
caller.
good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, my question is, people with health insurance already, how will this new system will affect them? Because, like, you have workplaces who have group plans and so on for the workers. How will that affect the people who are already paying health insurance?
So
thank you.
That's a very good question, and I think the idea of the public-private partnership that we were talking about is exactly how this was going to work. Our view is that everyone should be covered in the country. And the way it works is that we presented a model where we have what we call a stratified model. In insurance, this is the common practice of having multiple insurance companies cover up to certain limits.
Right.
So certain insurance company may take the first 10,000, another one may take the next 50, another one may take the next 100,000. So we suggest doing a similar thing here, so that one of the reasons we stack these coverage in this way is so that we don't duplicate the benefits. So if somebody already has an insurance policy and they want to continue with that policy, what we don't want to do is to have two people, the national health insurance and the insurance company, covering the same benefits. So we're going to have a conflict when a claim comes in, who to take the dollars from to pay.
Right.
So we've stacked it up so that on the first layer, everyone would be covered by the national health insurance through the revenues collected from taxes and other government entities to government control. What that does is reduces the amount that employers would have to pay, or individuals who have private insurance, because now they have what's called a major medical. It's covering them up for their specialty care and for their outpatient surgeries. And then the third layer would be if something catastrophic happens to you and you need high cost. All right? The fact that now you're not paying for the first layer makes it less expensive. So in a way, it might give a relief to employers because they're paying less. Or we can increase the benefit of coverage that those employers are getting, because now the insurance covers so little that it's not adequate to cover the benefits. So we believe in the long run the employers would benefit and the individuals. Now, what we want to do is to have more people have insurance.
Right.
So, and part of what we're doing, we are also meeting and talking to many in insurance. They like the idea of actually partnering with the NHI. In the countries where they've isolated the insurance companies and not let them become part of the national health insurance, it's actually increased the cost. Okay. Right? Because you're losing those dollars. You want to keep the insurance dollars inside the NHI because that helps to drive the system.
Right.
It's going to help to promote the better quality healthcare system. So the employers could help with that. And they are major contributors in this regard. So we see that as a partnership rather than separating the two systems, and that's why we strongly recommend that we do the private-public partnership.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I mean, it's always a pleasure having you guys here. I know that there are a lot of questions that are going to come up as time goes by and as the work continues, and I'm being told that you guys have to run.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So I'm hoping that, of course, with your time here, because you're going to be here a lot longer, and I'm sure that you guys are going to come in more than often. And I'm hoping that we can get another interview as time goes by, because I believe that the more the public knows about what's happening, then the more comfortable they can feel in the process. You know, so if we can provide an avenue for them to get that information, we're always happy to do that. So you're always welcome to come and share, you know, your findings, your recommendations, give advice, whatever it may be. You're always welcome to that. It's always a pleasure having you here. So guys, we're going to take a short break while our guests leave, but of course we'll be back with more Hard Talk in just a short moment.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
environmental conditions. Nawasa continues to improve the quality of its water supply through state-of-the-art water treatment systems and trained, experienced staff. Nawasa preserves our health and quality of life. Nawasa, committed to meeting customers' needs. Water, its purest.
It's cricket again. West Indies versus Ireland. Grenada National Stadium, January 12th and January 15th. First, the Colonial Medical Insurance. Third, One Day International, January 12th, starting at 9 a.m. Then on January 15th, the first Sandals T20. Starting time 1 p.m. Admission on both days. Members stand $25 US or $67 EC. The Junior Murray Raw Lewis stand $15 US, $40 EC. Posse stand $5.50 US, $15 EC. Senior citizens 60 and over gets a free ticket while stocks last. Children 12 and under get a free ticket with the purchase of an adult ticket. Organize your posse. Get your tickets now and come support your team. January 12th and 15th.
The strength of the iron, it's in the testing. Bring them up. It's not a loss, it's just a lesson. Be grateful for your blessings. You'll be digging deep to find that inner strength.
All right, guys, and we are back. So you heard it from the team themselves, Dr. Ned and his team from JIPA. They were here explaining to us what they are going to provide to us as an organization and their role in the development of a national health insurance in Grenada. And it's been a conversation that we've been having for some time now. It is a conversation that needs to continue because it is something that is going to benefit every single Grenadian. It's something that is going to benefit us all. So we are still a way away from the implementation phase of the National Health Insurance. JIPA's team is here to do the consultation, to do the coordination, to speak with the relevant practitioners and all of the parties involved, to do the analysis and to present to our government a basket of services, a model that they believe will best benefit the people of Grenada. And I mean, a lot of questions are being asked, a lot of questions are being thrown here and there as it relates to national health insurance. But I think what we all need to understand is that as much as health care is a right, it's also our responsibility to ensure that every single person within Grenada has access to health care, whether they're in a position where they can afford or not. They must have access. And not just health care, but quality health care. And then we must start having that conversation and coming to the realization that it is going to cost. You know? It is going to cost something. And are we willing as a people to make that sort of sacrifice? You know, we all can't afford private health insurance. We all are not in a position where we can jump on a plane and go to the USFA and receive care and come back to Grenada. We're not all at that stage, you know, but we all deserve at least an opportunity to receive adequate health care, you know, and it is going to come at a cost. So we must come to the realization that we're going to have to pay for it. Yes, we're going to have to pay for it. We are going to have to make that sacrifice for the greater good of Grenada on a whole. So we're going to have a lot more conversation as it surrounds national health insurance, as time goes by, as the consultations are being made. And I know a lot of people have been making a lot of comments as it relates to how they're going about it. Oh, they need to meet with the doctors and they need to meet with the nurses and the people involved. And yes, that is being done. It was confirmed, you know. So It's time for us to stop putting a political spin on it and start understanding, as Dr. Ned says, it takes every single one of us, regardless of our political affiliation, regardless of which side of the fence we sit. Health insurance is a national issue. It's not a political thing. It's not a political issue. It's a national issue. And it is something that we must all put our politics aside and go hand in hand and support this initiative. Because as we all know, it is something to benefit each and every single Grenadian. Right? So we definitely do wish Dr. Ned and his team our very best, because we definitely do want to see this thing succeed, you know? We want to ensure that every Grenadian has that right, you know, and has that access. I do want to read a short release here that was sent out by the Royal Grenada Police Force, I believe. And it has to do with the Mount Morris area. I believe the Commissioner of Police is going to be in that area on Wednesday. And I mean, I am very happy for that, because there is a lot that needs to be clarified and a lot that needs to be addressed as it relates to the passage on that road. And the driving is we're still having problems in that area. I mean, there are a lot of people that are being displaced as a result of this issue, and we're hearing that even more people in the Molineux area, they may also have to be relocated. So there are a lot of people being displaced, you know, and the onus is on every single one of us to be considerate in this issue, to be considerate of the people that you are sharing the road with. You know, I've seen a lot of road rage lately. I didn't know that we were so angry as drivers in Grenada. I mean, we take to the roads. It's like we get up in the morning and say, I'm going to be this bully on the road this morning. I ain't giving nobody a chance to pass. And I vex and I want to quarrel with. No, we can't function like that, you know. We are all utilizing the road. Therefore, just be a little bit more courteous, especially the bus drivers, I must say. Be a little bit more courteous. Have a little bit more patience. It is now a road that's open for a lot of public traffic. It's like a main road now. So you have to expect that you are going to meet a lot of different drivers. They're not at the same level when it comes to driving, you know? So it's important to take into consideration those that are a little bit nervous, those that are just learning to drive, those that have just come out on the road, fresh drivers, those that are not as experienced as you are, those that are not as quick, you know, in terms of resolving and estimating and these kind of things. I mean, we had to take all of that into consideration and just be just a little bit more patient and have a little bit more roadside courtesy. Just a little bit more. You know, it's going to take us a long way. And for those of you, you know, with the loud vehicles and those of you with the loud music, I mean, just tone it down just a little bit. A little bit goes a long, long way, you know. So we definitely do have to take these things into consideration. And, of course, we have cricket, lovely cricket. Yesterday's cricket game was absolutely phenomenal. The turnout was lovely. I am absolutely pleased to see that Grenadians supported this sporting activity so well. And on a Sunday, nonetheless, you know, Grenadians really like their cricket. So it was a very good event, very well turned out. And of course, Wednesday, I believe the game starts at 1 o'clock, Naz. 1 o'clock. but I could definitely verify that for you. But of course, you want to go out and you want to support that game as well. So there will be a lot of conversation this week as it surrounds health. We now have the dialysis machines at the General Hospital, which is a really, really great step in the right direction for our healthcare service. And of course, it's going to be a subsidized cost at a subsidized rate, so the government continues to come to the realization that not everybody in Grenada is going to be able to afford, but they can meet us halfway. And that's a wonderful thing. It shows that when decisions are being made, that every single person in every strata of life in Grenada is being considered, And of course, it's Open Line Monday, so you guys are free to give us a call at 440-7377 for our local calls, 347-329-3101 if you're calling from the diaspora, and 440-7377 if you have a query or a question that you would like to pose through the WhatsApp. We have a lot of topics to talk about this year, a lot of things that need to be addressed. I'm hoping that we don't spend a lot of time this year talking about or trying to clarify propaganda. I'm hoping that in 2020 we have moved away from that and that we have moved into looking for information, seeking information, trying our best to understand what's happening, making valuable contributions to what's happening within our country. Independence is right around the corner. I want to see a lot more patriotism. I mean, and it's not just about wearing red, yellow, and green, but it's about the spirit of, the deeds and the actions. It's about understanding why we celebrate our independence. It's about understanding what our independence is all about. It's about teaching our children the history of Grenada, the history of our independence. So we want to take all of that, and attach it to the red, yellow, and green. We want to take all of that and attach it to our Independence Day parade. I believe that we have lost the sense of what being a patriot is all about. And it's time that we start taking back our culture, regaining our culture, sharing our culture with our young people, ensuring that they understand the different aspects of what a Grenadian is all about. So we're hoping that very soon we'd have persons from the Cultural Foundation coming in to tell us what are we to expect this independence. What are we being thankful for as Grenadians? How far have we come from independence to now as a country? What do we have to be proud about? What are we celebrating? And these are the questions that you also need to ask yourself. And if you can't answer that, it means that then you as a person have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of work to do. What have you contributed towards the development of Grenada? As independence comes in to focus in the next few weeks, these are the questions that we need to start asking ourselves. What is independence to me as a Grenadian? Is it just about waving a flag on the 7th of February and watching the military or the policemen and women march in their beautiful in their beautiful uniforms and so on. Is that what it's about? Is it about going into the stadium and jumping up with your flags and looking at the cultural presentation? Is that what it means to you, or is it so much more? You know, that's the question that we need to start asking ourselves. We need to start thinking critically as a people so that we come up with better solutions, better suggestions, ways in which we can help improve our country and not criticize and condemn everything that happens. You know, we either want more as a people, we have to do more as a people. You know, what example are we setting for the younger generation, for the children that are coming up, the children that are, you know, looking at us, children that are taking their example from us as adults? What example are we really setting for them? Are we really fostering a nation of children who are keen on, are we set a nation of children that are keen on quarreling and criticizing and condemning and just looking at negatives? Is that what we really want for our children? Or do we want more? Do we want to see them strive? Do we want them to think critically? You know, what do we want to see? We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello?
Yeah, good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, Ms. Duncan, as the 14th day in January in 2020, I want to see that we Grenadians, let us stamp out that hate, that respect to one another. And let us build our country. Let us love one another. Have respect for one another. And if we show that respect and that love and care for one another, we are going into a next year of independence. And we could build our country. Let us build our country. We come together and let us demonstrate that love and care for one another. Because let us stamp out hatred and disrespect. And if we stamp out hatred and disrespect and we show more love to one another and more respect, our country will be a better place to live. And we as adults, we have to show example and good example for the young people to follow. And so I want to say to the adults and to all Grenadians, as we celebrate another year of independence, let us demonstrate that love and the patriotism we here that we should be demonstrating to our country. Because if we say we love our country, we have to do see that everything that happens in our country, it is good and prosperous for our nation. And Grenada will be a shining light. We cannot build with some same but a strong going forward. We have to build in unity. So, Ms. Duncan, you have a wonderful day. God bless you.
You too. Thank you so much for your contribution. Yes, we definitely do have to build in unity. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Good morning.
All the best for the new year, you and your team.
You as well. Thank you.
And we're so happy to have you, and thank so much for the people. For the people who were on the program earlier sharing the health issues. And I pray to God that it will really come true and everything would be okay. I have a suggestion, Ms. Duncan, please. Last year I was sharing with Sheldon that it would be nice to have those former people when Uncle Gary were there, the struggles coming into our independence, to share about it, and that was never done. Look, Mr. Prodam gone, Miss Gary gone. I think there's still people around like Jerry Romain. We have Paul Roberts, who was on Simon program, telling us about the build-up of the independence. So it would be nice to give some history, what our independence was all about, and the struggles that came through with it.
Yeah.
And in the thing of talking of, let me load that other part of radio I have there, that you should look at that. That would be nice to give some history Hello.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Miss Duncan. And to teach them young people, well, what went on before, because a lot of them do not know that great struggle that we had in getting that independence. And in a matter of fact, of talking about independence, in my time growing up, our parents was responsible for us to sending us to learn trade. We at the lower class, we couldn't go to the university because the parents didn't have that kind of money. But the upper class people did it. I want to know what changed that in Grenada. The politics has changed where everybody thinks that the government is responsible for my children. I don't think so. Your parent is responsible for you to see that you mature and excel in life. With sending you to learn trade, we parents used to send us to the domestic science in those days when Miss Francis was, send you to learn sewing, send you to do tailoring, the barber shop, the tailoring shop, all those things wasn't netted in our society. What is happening now? The young men need a carpentry, they went to a carpenter to walk along with a carpenter. What is happening? This is what independence is about, where we, our people, is skillful enough to help to maintain ourselves and to do what we have to do. Anyhow, thank you, Ms. Duncan, for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your contribution. You know what, a very valuable contribution to the topic. I mean, we have a tendency as Grenadians to believe that the government is responsible. And I say responsible without adding anything to the end, because as Grenadians, we're very good at adding everything to the plate of government. Something goes wrong, it's government's fault, you know? And it is a lot the responsibility of us as parents to teach our children or to guide our children into becoming valuable members of society, you know? And I say valuable because there are so many areas in terms of skills that our children can get into. You know, I don't know where we all got the idea that our sons and our daughters need to be lawyers and doctors only. You know, where are our carpenters and our plumbers and you know, where are our seamstresses and our tailors, and where are all of these skilled people that help contribute to the growth of your country? You know? When have we gone or come to a place where if a hotel is being built, we can't find sufficient plumbers on the island to take up the job? Or a house is being built and we have to contract a firm to come and do the plumbing and to do the electricity work and to do the carpentry and to do the masonry, and we are losing a lot of resources. A lot of our economy is dwindling as a result of us thinking. And it's true. We think that the skilled people are the lesser people in society. You know, and that mindset has to change. They're not the lesser people in society. Guess what? Because without a lot of these skilled people, a lot of things that we need done in the country can't get done. You know? So a lot of us are of the impression that our children need to go away and study to be lawyers and doctors. You know, where are engineers? Where are technicians? It's very important. Our custodians even. You know? But there's so much stigma attached to trade and attached to skills. We're putting so much stigma into it that a lot of people are afraid to even do it anymore. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my dear heart.
Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
Darling?
I'm good.
Good. How was your weekend yesterday?
It was good. Very restful. I was recovering from that flu. I don't even know if to call it a flu.
I didn't go down to the cricket, but I heard it pass good.
Yes.
Yes, it passed good. What you talking about independence? Oh, Lord Jesus Christ. Oh, Lord, by Blaze and Gary. Oh, God. But you see, long ago, people, they think about warring now. It was, I could tell you, Uncle Gary, go Blaze, both of them go up, both of them sign. Mr. Blaze, he run back down, man. He say, who is Grenada? Grenada can get independent. Who is Grenada? We small. He run down. And then Uncle Gary come, man. And they think Uncle Gary coming in the car. They want him come. He come in a different car. When he come, he say, we have it and we have it in the bag. The 7th of February. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on us. That's why you see we have this back and forth. Maybe now, boy, what? This thing, when to put up the flag go up on a generator. Who that day? But I wasn't in the darkness. I was under the light. I was under the light. So I see the light and everything by Lord, but Sister Duncan, it ain't easy. It don't easy in these things, and this I tell you, this time is worse. This time that raining worse. They do, if you want to raise your foot, they tell you no. But before, they used to help. Uncle Gary used to help Mr. Blaze, and you know this thing. When you doing something, you just have a little back and front. But now we have worse. Now it's killing. This kind of thing, Sister Duncan, they have to stop it. It's Grenadians. We have to come together and work for the betterment of Grenada.
Of course.
So, I want you see that going on now. It's happening before, but it's happening now worse. So, Sister Duncan, glad to hear you, sweetheart. And you have a wonderful and a blessed day. God bless you, darling, and I love you, baby.
You too, my dear. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, sweetheart.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah, we really have to assess who we are as Grenadians and what we want for our country and what we want to accomplish as a people. We really need to do an assessment of that before we even start celebrating our independence, you know? Because if we don't know what we had fought for, why we continue to fight, if we don't see the benefit in any of these things, then what really are you celebrating? You know? You call yourself a patriot. We say that we are patriots, but we don't really even know what we're celebrating, you know? What we're thankful for, where we want to see our country, and what we want to see happen for our country. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. Hello, caller. Good morning. No, it seems like we've lost that call. Please try calling back if you can. You know, so we need to start having conversations with our children, even at a school level, on what different job opportunities there are available for them. Apart from being a lawyer and a doctor, you know, for career day, how many children you see dressed as a plumber? How many children you see dressed up and say they want to be a mason? How many children you see dressed up as a carpenter? You know, you don't see these things because these are not the things that we as parents promote. you know? And I mean, I could say we because maybe at some time or the other, I was guilty of being one of those parents. You know, but there is a stigma attached to skills, learning skills and careers in skills for our children. And it's something that we really need to come away from, deviate from as a people. You know, we have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. Hello. No, I don't know what's happening with that call. It keeps dropping. Let's try again. Good morning, caller.
Hello?
Hi, good morning, Miss Cammy.
Good morning, Miss Duncan. Happy New Year.
Same to you.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. You hearing me, ma'am?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
You hearing me?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm called to speak about independence this morning. I have a problem, Miss Duncan. Over the years, I've been calling concerning some pallets. Two truck will come and drop in front of my place in Boucherville. I call that program here. I call HARDTALK. I call Shaggy. I call at the Donald Station. I complain it to the Minister of Health. I complain to people in the office. And nobody is saying heed with this rat. I live in Boucherville. And it's not fair for me as a citizen to be able to be going through all these things. What I'm saying is, and I want the people to listen to me very carefully, people standing that complain that parents they're making rats, green rats, they don't clean it already. People beside the discovery, but they complain that he has some pallets with rats breathing in it, they clean it already. I don't know if it's because of this scammy, and they look down at me as nobody. That is how I have to put it. They will not come and clean it. I was speaking about Joe Grenada, right? In the Boucherville area, in front of my door. And this is more than 2 or 3 years. This pallet is there. And it's breeding rats. And the rat is poisonous. Thank you. I would like somebody to come and clean it up. The people in they're in charge. And it's on government land, but it's facing in front of my door. And it's not there to me. I don't want nobody coming from my door. The only people must come, direct, the water, and then people are meter. Because I'm begging, and nobody saying it. Even them big short people, they are saying it. And I'm very upset it's time. It's time they clean it. Have a good day.
You too, Miss Cammy. Well, I know this is an issue that you've been calling with for a while now. I'll do my best to call solid waste and really see what the holdup is in getting that area cleaned up. I mean, it's really very sad that you're still experiencing this issue. But further from that, we definitely do need to do our due diligence as Grenadians. And I mean, that is not the proper way to dispose of those items, you know. And if you could get the truck number or the person responsible for doing that and provide us with that information, then we'll also be able to help you further. You know, we definitely do need to keep Grenada clean. I mean, it's sad that we have to sit down here and say that, you know. You're just throwing things all over the place. That's not right. Come on. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. Okay, we seem to be losing that specific call every time. I don't know what's happening. So, caller, try checking your phone again, because we are hearing you on this end. I don't know what's happening on your end. All right? But we definitely do need to do a lot better as Grenadians as we approach the independence season. And, of course, not just independence. We do have the renewal of our identification cards coming up, which is also a big event for us as Grenadians. It is definitely a big event. We will be providing you with a lot more information as time goes by, but we just want you to keep it in the back of your minds that that's going to be happening from the 1st of February. I believe that the list is being released or has been released, so you want to check to make sure that your name is on that list, so that you can have your identification cards renewed. And of course, if your name is not on a list and maybe it was there before, you want to make queries and so on to get that done. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello. Oh, we seem to have lost that call. So you want to keep that in the back of your mind. More information will come as time goes by as it relates to this renewal process. But we have independence coming up. And I want to see, this is always my wish and my hope for Grenada, that in the time leading up to independence, that we see an overflow of cultural activities. I feel like we're losing our culture. When Carnival come around, we see a set of pretty costumes, and all of that is nice. All of that is pleasing to the eye. But we need to start thinking about our culture, what our culture has been, what culture we're planning to pass down to our children, and all of that. We need to start taking that into consideration, and start having these conversations with our children. What do you want to see? Not only our children, but stakeholders in the country, citizens, us as a people. What do you want to see for your country? Where do you want to see your country next election, next independence coming up? What advances would you want to have see being made to your country within that time? All of these conversations are conversations that we need to start having. Instead of talking about nonsense about selling passports and silliness. Engage in constructive conversations that can help build your country, and not sharing of propaganda and these silly things. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, and yes, I know you're hearing me, but you're very far in the distance.
Oh.
But Miss Duncan, the first thing I want to talk about, season greetings for the new year, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I want to talk about is the cricket game match yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that, the result was one that is favorable. And it is a testimony, you understand, towards the vision of this government, and all those in the sporting fraternity that was involved. The next issue is the NHI. And I was so glad to hear you laying so much emphasis on the NHI this morning. Miss Duncan, the NHI is so important to our people that I want the government to make sure that they dot all the I's and they cross all the T's when it comes to its implementation. So as a result of that, people who is seeking medical attention, they would see the direct benefit of the NHI from a financial standpoint when it comes to the pocket. So I want to say again, we should take our time, even though we have to implement it next year. It doesn't matter if we implement it in the year when an election is being called. For me, that is not the issue. The issue is ensuring that we put all the necessary checks and balances and the necessary mechanism in place to make sure that it worked and worked in an effective and efficient way. So even if we have to do a little bit of tweaking going forward, it will not be any major changes. And the other point is that, Ms. Duncan, there is in St. Andrews, when it comes to the Grenville bus terminal, a lot of us, including people like me, we are somewhat, I will not use the word frustrated, but we are somewhat disappointed that to this time, the Grenville bus terminal has not become more functionable in terms of, the boots that in there, you know what I mean? And making it an operational facility like St. George's. Yes, I know. Based on what the Prime Minister, Mr. Bowen, would have mentioned in the last budget, I know and I agree that we have an implementation problem, based on what was said. But when it comes to that facility in Grenville, they need to move well, let me not use that word because I don't think I could pronounce it properly. They need to move very fast in ensuring that Grenville bus terminal becomes functional and all the necessary mechanism is put in place to ensure that it functions effectively like St. George's or even more effectively. Because once the Grenville bus terminal become operational, there are people that is selling there now. You know what I mean? And this thing, it will not be able to continue as it is. So it's important that we move and we move fast, because a lot of commerce has been stifled, and the service for the people, that uses the bus terminal, it is not what it should be. And as a result of that, yes, we're calling on the powers that we please do what it takes to ensure that Grenville bus terminal becomes functional. God's willing, hopefully, in this year. Ms. Duncan, I thank you for the time and have a pleasant day.
You as well. Thank you for your contribution. The team that was here this morning from NHI would have left with us an email address for the persons who would like to contribute or to give recommendations or to just air their concerns or so on. They have an email address or a network set up where they can receive your comments and so on, and that's NHIvoices@jipanetwork.com, and I'm going to spell that out. It's NHIVOICES at JIPAnetwork.com. So to those of you listening who have queries, concerns, recommendations, you can go ahead and send them an email at that email address, and they will be happy to, of course, respond, reply, take into consideration your recommendations and so on. Because, of course, as they said, this is going to only be successful with the support of every single Grenadian. Every one of us must play our part in ensuring that the national health insurance is a success. And guess what? To the insurance companies out there who are concerned about whether their health insurance or whether their insurance scheme is going to suffer as a result, guess what? This now gives more Grenadians an opportunity to purchase different kinds of insurance. So we have national health insurance, where every single Grenadian has an opportunity to become covered under an insurance scheme, a national insurance scheme that ensures that every Grenadian has access to quality health care. But there are so many other types of insurance. You have your renter's insurance. I'm sure a lot of people don't know about that, where you can secure your home that you are renting in the event that something happens. You have insurance where you can insure the contents of your home. You have insurance that is life insurance. You have a pension plans by some of the insurance scheme. You have vehicle insurance. You have house insurance. There are so many other types of insurance. So it just gives people an opportunity to get something else or to choose a wider range, So we have to look at the positives in these things and not just pin the negatives and pinpoint the cons just because we feel like it's going to affect the government. But who is the government? We, the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, we are the government. So whatever we do, it affects us It affects us as a people. So we want to keep that in the back of our minds when we engage ourselves in conversation and when we engage ourselves in actions that we think will destroy or hurt a political party, or we think is going to destroy or hurt a politician or a representative. We must take into consideration that with every action, there are a ripple of reactions. It's not just one reaction. There are a ripple of reactions or a ripple of effects. So we must know what we are hoping to accomplish. We must take into consideration who will be affected by our decisions. And we must be mindful that we Grenadians, we are the government. We have the say. You know, the politicians are there to help. They're there to put policies in place. We may not agree with everything that they do, but we must always look at everything objectively. Sit down with pen and paper and make 2 lists. A list that contains the pros of a situation and a list that contains the cons. And speak always from an informed place. Don't rely on hearsay. Don't rely on he say and she say. Get the facts. Know the facts so that you can speak the facts. Guys, we are out of time. Of course, in whatever you say and whatever you do, always be safe, be secure. We always want to be talking with you and to you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Well, other children say.
Electoral Office says it is ready and equipped to begin voter registration as of February 2020. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, January 10th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Electoral Office says it is ready and equipped to begin the registration of Grenadians. Acting Supervisor of Elections Elvis Moraine, along with Mr. Michael Millett, System Administrator, and Ferdinand Phillip, Public Relations Officer at the Parliamentary Elections Office, updated members of the media on the issue of the voters' registration cards that will become outdated as of January 31st, 2020. The process, he says, will be replacement of cards and not re-registration, as the Act in its present construct does not make provisions for re-registration and expired cards. Moraine says while many cardholders are concerned about its secondary purpose as a piece of ID for various transactions, the integrity of the process has to be upheld.
Once it's not in law, it's administrative, right? And it means, therefore, that for instance, and I want to do a logical thing. Somebody takes a card at 18, right? And the card runs for, well, in that case, 8 years, you could have significant feature changes, right? So it would have to be an opportunity for you to upgrade, in terms of by way of security, because you can have a card where basically you can identify the physical feature of that person. And that's the reality. So it is an administrative security thing more than anything else, right? That you don't want to have a card. And then the other thing is that if you know, one of the challenges that we have now, which is a secondary challenge, as Sherian mentioned it, in terms of what people use the card for. But without an expiry date, the card may not be able to fit that secondary purpose. We are trying to facilitate the process. We can't compromise the process. So it has to go through, you know, the stages in terms of, because verification is critical. Mr. Millett made a point earlier, but I want to emphasize, verification is critical. Now, persons, sometimes you always hear about the issue of purging lease and so on, right? It's an opportunity to start the process, because people have a lot of things that might happen, not just the physical feature, but you might have change in address, all these things. So that opportunity will give you an opportunity to really refine your process to make sure your lease is as clean as possible, right? So that is also another opportunity. So while I emphasize and I want us to make sure that we have the cards available so people can transact, we are saying, based on our primary purpose, we need to make sure we get it right.
Michael Millett, System Administrator, says the renewal of the cards will follow the same process as 2012 and 2013, when the new voters' registration cards were issued.
Persons are going to come back with the same documents. People might be of the opinion that since the card is going to be replaced, we can just do a reprint. However, all of the procedures that was followed before, when somebody gets registered, the same applies today. Persons are going to come with their expired cards, also walk along with the documents, be it birth certificate, passport, or citizenship document, whatever document is required for registration, and do the complete process all over. So photos are going to be taken, fingerprints taken, signature taken, and the process continues as normal. So it's not just a reprint of a card, but the entire application has to be redone so that the new cards can be issued.
The average processing time for the cards is roughly 2.5 weeks. However, looking at the volume of people that process, Mr. Millett says, may take an extended period. He explains further the need to repeat the entire process even after personal data is in the system and can be retrieved via one's fingerprint.
The system has been designed in such a way to maximize security and to ensure, one, that dead persons aren't on the list, or also to ensure that persons don't have duplicate registration. So in the event somebody would have died and that person would have been removed from the list, the system does not afford us the opportunity or the ability to just put back that person on the list. In the event when you would have collected your cards, those who have gotten cards know you must use your fingerprint to get the card. So in this way, we are certain that you are the recipient of your card. You can't send someone to collect the card. And if it was in a fashion where we can just do a reprint, it means that we can have multiple persons having your card. But also to ensure that if someone was removed from the list, we at the office cannot just reinsert them back on the list. That person has to make an application to get back on the list. So again, if it happens inadvertently that we accidentally removed someone from the list who should have been on the list, we would have to get in touch with that person and ask them to come back again with all the documents and re-register to do that application. So it's just a security feature to ensure that we are not able to just put persons on and off as we will.
The process for the new cards will commence as of February 2020. Coaches, physiotherapists, doctors, and other key officials began a two-day sports medicine conference at the West Wing Conference Room at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium on Friday. The Sports Medicine Conference is an initiative of Wilbur Thomas, a former national basketballer who now teaches at the Kingsborough Community College, and Sports Minister Senator Norland Cox. Sports Minister Senator Cox, while delivering remarks during the opening ceremony, says the execution of the first ever Sports Medicine Conference in Grenada is a very important exercise to keep up to date with new approaches and techniques that are available to professionals who deal with athletes in various disciplines.
What we see happening from this small conference that we have this morning, because it's deliberate in terms of the size. We want it to start small based on our discussions. To help us to kind of shape how we move forward, to get a feedback from you What are your thoughts? Some of the things that we can do, how we can improve. We believe that this conference can grow to be a regional one, that Grenada can be the leading island in the OECS to start with, to have this annual sports medicine conference every year discussing pertinent matters.
Senator Cox says there is a need to prepare our professionals better in an era of many changes in the sporting arena.
This is a good opportunity for us at this time. Added to that, we have been having a number of successes recently in the area of sports, and we believe that we are going to have more. So we have to prepare our professionals better so that they can deal with us, those athletes, they can treat them so that they can perform better at their roles. So this is a very critical initiative. So what we really want from you today as participants, to share some of your experiences so that we can merge with whatever is going to be facilitated today through those professionals. Most importantly, our doctors who are here, we know that we have several incidences in the past, and we believe that this initiative is going to help you because the doctors, their specific skill set in terms of sports medicine.
Dr. Christine Passard, a medical director and deputy of orthopedics at Sunny Downstate Medical Center, Brooklyn, New York, says the Minister of Sports needs to be applauded for his role in ensuring that the conference came to fruition.
And Minister Cox and I had a very lengthy conversation when he was in New York regarding bringing this conference to Grenada. He spoke about the importance of the athletes and sports medicine in general, prevention of injuries, which I think we're going to touch on some of those topics over the next few days. So that's how we got to know each other a bit, and Minister Cox has been very instrumental in making this happen, and we both recognize the need for this. It's very important. We are hoping to make this conference an annual conference to discuss things that are always changing in sports medicine, whether it's about concussions, whether it's about musculoskeletal ultrasound, which has become very important in sports medicine. So I think it'll be very instrumental in discussing with the coaches, the physical therapists, the physicians here, what's new and what's changing around the world for sports medicine.
Founder of LQ Sports, former Grenadian basketballer Wilbur Thomas, says the purpose of LQ Sports is primarily to facilitate these types of events where he can give back to a country that has given him his start.
The Sports Medicine Conference came about because I work almost every day with Dr. Passard and her team at my 9-to-5 job at Kingsborough, and 2 years ago we started talking about, hey, what about Grenada? Do y'all have any sports medicine and stuff like that? And I told her, I said, well, that's one of the areas that is lacking, and hopefully through conversations with the Ministry of Sport we can have something done. In October, Minister Cox came to New York, we met with him and we put the plan forward of, this is what we want to do, and we believe that it can give a lot of our physios and doctors on the island a taste of the international level of sports medicine and dealing with athletes. And he was all on board, and here we are today. One of the pertinent areas is concussion. I think that's really a big thing going on. I'm not sure, just like the minister said, on the island that we have a concussion protocol for our young athletes and head injuries, upper extremities. That's one of the main areas that we're going to focus on. There's also ankles, knees, the posterior chain and stuff like that. That's what we're going to focus on today.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
It's cricket again. West Indies versus Ireland. Grenada National Stadium, January 12th and January 15th. First, the Colonial Medical Insurance. Third, One Day International, January 12th, starting at 9 a.m. Then on January 15th, the first Sandals T20. Starting time 1 p.m. Admission on both days. Members stand $25 US or $67 EC. The Junior Murray Raw Lewis stand $15 US, $40 EC. Posse stand $5.50 US, $15 EC. Senior citizens 60 and over gets a free ticket while stocks last. Children 12 and under get a free ticket with the purchase of an adult ticket. Organize your posse. Get your tickets now and come support your team. January 12th and 15th.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information says additional steps are being taken to ensure a greater measure of comfort for the staff and students of the Boca Secondary School. A release issued on Friday stated that a joint inspection was done with key personnel from Grenlec and engineers from the Ministry of Infrastructural Development and Western Electronics on Tuesday, January 7th. The release further stated that the school passed the inspection on yet another occasion. The Ministries of Education and Infrastructural Development will continue the work started in 2019 to address all infrastructural and logistical concerns as flagged by the staff. The replacement of the roof, which was repaired only 2 years ago, is high on the list of priorities. Consequently, an action plan is now being finalized to ensure that there is minimal disruption to classes, with all necessary accommodations made for the staff and students. Given government's tangible commitment to safer schools, an appeal has also been made for the greater vigilance and diligence of all stakeholders to curb the incidents of vandalism at Boca Secondary School and other institutions. Vandalism is an endangerment to students and other users of those facilities and places a great strain on the financial allocations for repairs and maintenance of schools. In 2019, approximately $7 million was spent on construction and repairs of institutions. Continuing with the news, 11 Calypsonians have moved on to the final round for the 2020 Independence Calypso competition, scheduled for Saturday, January 25th at the Cites bus terminus. 21 artists registered and were judged in the preliminary round. Senior Cultural Officer Adrian Mark listed the finalists competing to dethrone Sean Sourserpent Niles for the 2020 title.
The finalists are Kelly Klein, Rootsman Kelly, Edson Francis, Teacher Eddie, Nivian Cox, Philandi Jeffrey, Stunner, Antonia Simon, Zina, O'Neill Finley, Gun, Keturah Judge, Christopher David, Reporter, Denson Lewis, Denson, Peter Austin, Professor Shaggy, and last but not least, Samantha Dixon, Royalty.
He's particularly pleased that the female Calypsonians are proving to be keen contestants in the competition.
I'm happy that the competition is shared. You know, not only male take part in the Independence Calypso, females as well. And we have 3 good singers there, Zina, Keturah, and Royalty.
According to Mark, at the time of the preliminary round, the 2020 Independence theme was not yet released. However, the songs will be patriotic and specific to nation building.
Write something patriotic or nationalistic. Regardless of what theme that comes, your song must fall into line. So, per se, most of the songs will not be quote unquote on the theme itself. But because the theme is basically nationalistic or patriotic, because most of the songs are somewhere or the other either patriotic or nationalistic. So the Calypsonians, they would not fall offline, they will fall in line, so long as they write, thinking, taking all that into consideration, regardless to what the theme is.
The Calypso competition is among several events and activities listed on the schedule for the 2020 Independence celebration. Finally, in the news, the Ministry of Health says 2020 is the year for providing more efficient, quality service to the populace. Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele said the ministry will be implementing a central dispatch system which will seek to provide efficiency in cases of emergency throughout Grenada. The dispatch system will be coordinated with the Royal Grenada Police Force and the Fire Department. The system will be installed in various health facilities along with transportation and will be of service to the island.
By end of February to March, we expect to have installed at the General Hospital, Princess Alice and Princess Royal, a central dispatch system. We had spoken in 2019, we increased the number of ambulances that we had, full complement of ambulances, enough to service the entire island. The further step on that, as I'd said, would be to move to a central dispatch. That has been secured in terms of funding, in terms of costing, in terms of supplier. So we are beginning the implementation process of that central dispatch system.
Minister Steele said the move to implement the dispatch system will be a major improvement for the health sector.
What exists right now is that the individuals either call their health centers, they call 434, or the call is directed actually to accident and emergency. And there are occasions when accident and emergency is busy, and sometimes there are delays in receiving the call, and there are delays in reacting to the call. So we're going to have a central dispatch. That central dispatch will also be coordinated with police and fire as well. So we have been working with both of those entities to make sure that this rolls out.
That story just ended the national report for today, Friday, January 10th. Let's recap the top story. Electoral Office says it is ready and equipped to begin voter registration as of February 2020. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.